The Congress of South African Trade Unions saying it will call for a general strike in October in protest against corruption and the lack of prosecution of criminal suspects. Also backing the call by the nursing union Nahawu to go on strike in demonstration against what the union says is a lack of proper protective gear for frontline health workers. Now, you might remember 3 weeks ago, Cosatu saying it holds President Cyril Ramaphosa responsible for allowing the alleged corruption relating to COVID-19 procurement to happen and for the lack of prosecutions relating, I think, to the state capture era. Bheki Ntshalitshali is the General Secretary of Cosatu. He joins us now. Mr. Ntshalitshali, good afternoon to you. Thank you for your time. Why do you want to go on strike?
Good afternoon, Steve, and good afternoon to the viewers at home. As you may see from our statement, we are warning the President that workers are running out of patience. There are numbers of issues that for over time now, observations that government has not been attending to, ranging from legislation that were passed by Parliament, needing the signature or assent by the President, sitting in his office, no movement at all. Linked to that one is the frustration in relation to the attack on collective bargaining, relating to the refusal to implement existing agreement in terms of wages. Linked to that one is the question of the frontline workers, who, in our view, and we have warned in the beginning when they were putting the tender system, wanting some of these PPEs to be, brought from abroad. We asked one question at that time: what institution will be put in place to ensure that the PPEs that are brought to the country meet the required health standard in dealing with those issues? Of course, we went to the court through the NIHA. We lost the case. That is history. But looking to all of them and looking to the question of the corruption, we think the President is not moving with enough speed, not aggressive enough. We think he's negotiating with some criminals to hand themselves over, and we think it's not going to happen in that direction. And that's why we're calling the President, and we have taken a decision that is up to us as workers to defend the hard-won rights. And in that context, on the Global Day for Decent Work, to protect our rights, we think should be on the street to register that dissatisfaction.
Who are you aiming this at? I mean, part of what you've been saying has been directly aimed at the President himself. But, I mean, he's not acting alone. He represents a governing party. He represents a government. Is it him specifically you're aiming this at, especially the issue around corruption?
On the corruption, we know is a government broadly. But we have not seen the decisive step taken by the President. We don't believe that the President should be appealing to people and said, come forward, declare whatever, you are doing it wrong. It won't happen. It has never happened anyway. So we think the President must be bold. The President, in our view, should be calling all the institutions that are supposed to be dealing with the crime. In our view, should be going to the NDPP. He must be saying to the Minister of Police, the investigations are moving very slowly. I'm not hearing about people being arrested. He must be going to court and say, why it takes so long? We know that there's a huge backlog in court, and we have seen it with the postponement of cases. For clear cases that somebody just supposed to be put on trial and then that people are not available, we are told sometimes the availability of court, the availability of judges, and etc. and etc. We think within the President himself, we're not targeting him, but as a leader, he has to display that he's doing everything possible within his power to be able to rally his troops to do what is necessary. So it must be seen in one hand and said the President, and we said the President clearly in our statement, must do something. Workers are losing confidence every day in dealing with those things. But as you are correctly saying, he's not alone, but he's the head. And normally, there's a saying that says, the fish rot from the head. If the head does not really act decisively, everybody will be playing delinquent.
I mean, I understand why you hold the President, government responsible, but there has been an incident in the past when the President tried to give an instruction to the National Prosecuting Authority, and you might remember the chaos that created. The National Director of Public Prosecutions is constitutionally independent in our system. I mean, that's sort of the point of appointing someone like Advocate Shamila Batohi. Shouldn't the protest be outside her office?
No, we're not. He must tell them who should you arrest and etc. and etc. He's the head of the state. He appointed them on the mandate that he to ensure that crime is being dealt with, telling them to work as hard as quickly as possible to put criminals behind bars. He's not giving an instruction as to how you should be dealing with this case, whether you should continue with the prosecution or not. He's on a different area altogether. Is about what they were appointed for. To remind people that you were appointed as a police to arrest criminals is not interfering with the issues of that ministry and etc. and etc. So we understand the separation of power. But they are appointed by the president to do some work, otherwise they will do as they pleases. And we understand that they gave the president that they will work, they will respect the constitution, they will do as much as they can. But we are just losing hope when the criminals are roaming our streets, when the criminals are doing as they do. If you remember, Steve, during the World Cup, special court were set it up, cases were moved quickly in dealing with those issues. That's what we are calling for.
There seem to be two sides to this. You have the side, and symbols matter, so I will put people to them, but it's a sort of rough, simplistic symbolism. You have President Cyril Ramaphosa writing a letter to ANC members, I know you would have read it, in which he basically says we need to stop with corruption, people are implicated in wrongdoing, need to be removed from their positions. I mean, he's obviously talking about someone like Zandile Gumede. You have, for example, the idea that, and I think this is in his letter, I'd need to check, that it's wrong for family members of ANC leaders to do business with government. And then you have the other side, and the symbol of that, rightly or wrongly, and again simplistically, is Ace Makashule, the Secretary General. He says there's no problem with the family members of ANC leaders doing business with the state. Which side are you on?
We have repeatedly said President Ramaphosa is a state president. He was not only elected by the 2 million members of the ANC. His mandate is broader than of the ANC. About 9 million to 10 million people elected him to be the president. So he's the president of all of us. And in that context, we said the state president must stand firm and serve South Africa. We're dealing with the issues of the ANC in our statement. And of course, in that one, his hand might be a little bit uneasy to move it on. But that's what people don't remember him as the ANC president when it comes to crime. When people go to court, they look at him as the state president. That's where we put him on.
The attack, as you describe it, on public sector bargaining, and obviously I presume you're referring to the decision taken actually before COVID-19 struck South Africa by the finance minister to say that government would not be implementing the increase, the agreed-to increase had been agreed to 2 years ago. 6.25%, if my memory serves, was the increase. You'll know that things have changed since then, and the moral question becomes, why should government workers get an above-inflation increase when so many other workers in the private sector are losing their jobs? And I appreciate that you represent a constituency. I appreciate that they're very angry and frustrated. Some of these are very low-paid workers. Some of them are nurses. But if you go to the streets on that issue, you're not actually going to find that much of society isn't with you on this.
I think much of the society will stand firm on agreements made, that when people make compromises, you have to stick and abide by the rules. Otherwise, you'll be collapsing these collective bargainings. You'll be collapsing a multi-year agreement. So there is more than that one. But the decision by Treasurer has nothing to do with COVID-19. He indicated even before that he, as the Treasurer, will not give money to be implemented in this regard. And if he was serious about the shortage of money, not the question of just suppressing wages, I think he would have negotiated as soon as he was appointed to be the treasurer and marshal everybody to say, let's come back to the table. There's a problem here. What the trade union hate is unilateralism. And of course, the question of just the minister become a super minister undermining everybody else. Otherwise, what's the point of negotiating with other ministers and not to negotiate with treasurer? If other minister can enter into an agreement soberly and somebody else waking up from his dreams and says, I'm not going to implement this agreement. It's a bad governance. It must be rejected. It must be fought, and to an extent that we follow the collective bargaining. We're part of the ILO. We must respect collective bargaining in its true and full sense of it.
The government says it doesn't have the money, and I realize your feelings around the Finance Minister, Tito Mboweni, and it was he who said it in the budget, but this also comes through the Minister of Public Works and Administration, Senator Grootes. You'll remember how he refused to say beforehand if the increase was going to be implemented. It's his name actually in the court documents on this. Doesn't he bear responsibility too?
They do, all of them. I mean, in our statement we mention all of them, that the Minister of Employment and Labour, is his responsibility to ensure that as he manage the labour relations, he has to do the balancing act, has to come and tell his colleague if they are out of order in whatever respect they are in dealing with those issues. Government has not indicated that they don't have money in the manner in which money is being used in South Africa. If you look to the question of corruption, if you look to the AG report, it means everybody seems to be doing as they please. Corruption is rife, and only the workers that are being punished for this thing for a reason that has not been told. That's what workers reject, why they should be using their money, for an example, in the government employees pension fund to be investing and bailing some SOEs, but nobody cares about them. So it is in that context that make workers very, very angry, and they don't believe that government does not have money, because in the manner in which they display, look at these PPEs and money that has been wasted. Look at money that may be wasted in terms of trying to revive the economy. There is no indication that our government does not have money. There's an indication that government wants to suppress the public sector wages and working conditions.